I aim to motivate and inspire viewers to see the clothes they wear as an expression of their personality and their beliefs. This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look. Hello. Welcome to a new episode of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. My name is Linda and I am your host. Today the podcast is going to consist of two halves again. In the first half I'm going to talk knitting and specifically do a bit of a post-mortem, I guess, about my knitting of 2020. I've never actually looked back on a year of knitting and see what I did, how many projects I made, which ones were successes, which ones were failures, etc. So I thought, well, let's revisit what I did this past year and see if there's room for improvement and see whether you enjoy it. In the second half, I'm going to talk in more detail about the new fabric that I'm introducing this month for Layercake, and it's specifically a linen herringbone. I'm wearing the first sample of what's going to be short dusters in the herringbone. This is the teal herringbone, which some of you will have already seen introduced in my newsletter this past week in the shape of baggies. You're going to see a lot more baggies in the second half of this podcast in different colors. I hope you enjoy them. But first things first, let's talk knitting 2020. Project number one, a pair of socks for my husband, knitted. He likes his socks long. He also has big feet. In 5 Moons Artemis Sparkle Sock. I've forgotten the name. I'll put it down in the down bar. And they're holding up really well. They're getting a little bit pilly because he's wearing them lots. He really likes these socks. They're beautifully soft and I really enjoyed knitting them. Hermione's everyday sock pattern. Project number one. Number two was another pair of socks for my daughter, which I've knitted out of soliloquy sock lace in the merino silk blend. And she likes her socks short. She has size 7 feet. And I knitted these on 1.75mm needles, which gives a really nice, soft but firm fabric. And as you can see, these are a year old. She wears them regularly and you cannot see that they've been worn. They're holding up so well. So that's the thing to keep in mind. The more solid your fabric is, and this is not stiff at all, the better your yarn will hold up when it comes to sock wear. So if you are heavy in the wear of your socks, consider going down 1 needle size when you're knitting some more. So this is 1.75mm needles. That sounds horrendous, but you only go up to 72 stitches per round. So it doesn't actually take that much longer than working in regular sock yarn. Recommend it. I have a whole wall of soliloquy behind me still. 45 grams did these socks take. So a 50-gram hank of soliloquy is enough to make yourself a pair of socks. And if I'm quite a loose knitter, so you might find that a 2mm sock needle works really well for you. That was my second project in January. Then I apologize in advance for showing this again. A jumper that I started as a project for myself, and then realized that actually I could turn this into a new pattern. Got all the way to the point that I'm ready to knit the sleeves, and then got stuck on not knowing exactly what to do with the sleeves. I've worked that out by now, but so many other projects have taken my fancy and my interest that I still haven't returned to finishing this. I think that's a real problem. Well, for me it is. Once I've abandoned a project for a while, it seems to be becoming more and more difficult to return to it. So, fingers crossed, hopefully this year. would be nice to do a new jumper pattern. Oh, the yarns, Bichet Bouche Le Petit Lamb's Wool for the dark grey, and the colourful yarn is Rico Design sock yarn that has since been discontinued. I will make sure, of course, to put alternatives in the pattern if I get to the point that I'm writing it up. I'll have to finish it first, don't I? All right, so we're still in January, and on to another project that I never finished. I saw in YouTube video by Christy Glass Knits a crochet project that really captured my imagination. It was a very, very, very long scarf called Ziggy Interrupted. I'll show it to you here. And I had squirreled away a bunch of different colored soliloquy yarns that matched the color of a blanket that I have at home, and I really liked those colors. I wanted to somehow replicate the patterning and the coloring of that blanket in knitting, and I never got around to it. And when Ziggy Interrupted came by, I thought, oh, I can use the colors of soliloquy that I've squirreled away and do a Ziggy Interrupted in that. Wouldn't that be cool? So I have knitted loads and loads of the little squares that you make for Ziggy Interrupted, and it's a combination of mainly solid semi-solids with one multicolor, if I remember correctly. Yes, there it is. This was a leftover from a hank of Here Be Dragons, a colorway that Heather from Sparkle Duck used to dye for me. Of course, Heather, very sadly, is no longer with us. I've treasured this yarn, wanted to do something special with it, and it goes really well with the other colors that I selected for that blanket. So here are the other colors, together with Here Be Dragons. And then I realized that one of the colors in Here Be Dragons is oranges, and I don't have that in the selection of yarns that I'm using, so I added this color, which is dyed by the Natural Dye Studio, and I still have some of that in stock as well. I'll show you all the numbers and names of the different colors down below if you're interested in any of them. So far I have done lots of the shapes and then did an extra round in that orangey color as a complementary color, and then those little squares are supposed to be crocheted together like you can see in the sample. And I'm not sure what I want to do with this, so I'm thinking maybe I'll make a cowl. I love wearing loose thin shawls and bunching them up with a piece of firmer knitting around my neck. So that could be a cowl, a multicolored cowl with all those little squares, rather than doing a very long scarf, which I'll probably enjoy making, but I may not end up wearing because of the combination of other scarves and shawls that I already have. So hopefully by the end of this coming year, I'll have a cowl, a Ziggy cowl. So on to the next one. Oh, and these project bags are by Trava and Wool. Susanna has made a whole bunch of new ones for me, embroidered a whole bunch of new ones for me on my linen. So watch out for those. I'll put them on Instagram and I will shout off the rooftops when I have them photographed and ready for the website. So new project bags coming from Susanna. In the meantime, keep an eye on her website as well. Trava and Wool is the website, and she also does the embroidery threads that she uses on the bags. She sells those as separate little hanks, but also as whole sets. So I bagged some immediately, of course, as soon as she made them available, because I'm really getting into my hand stitching again. But more about that later. Let me stick to 2020 knitting projects. Right, February came along and I knitted this sample, which I wanted to turn into a pattern in the dyed Mocha yarn that Sharon from Five Moons dyed for me in two colorways. These blue and green ocean colors, and then she did this potpourri, as she called it, combination of flower and leaf colors as well. The ones that you see here behind me is all I've got left, because of course Mocha, shortly after I knitted this, stopped trading, so I never ended up turning it into a pattern. I just brought it along to unravel to show what the finished kind of knitted version of this colored yarn looks like, and I never made the pattern. So that was the beginning of February. Then also in February I knitted a fairly XL, a fairly shawl pattern in a double large size by using two of my linen gradient sets. One that goes from neutral to black and the other one from black to teal. So by combining them, going from neutral to black and then over to the teal and then back to the black, etc., you have enough yarn to make a huge fairly. And when you wear this bunched up around your neck, you not only have the beautiful interplay of all the colors, but because you've got so much of the linen fabric around your neck, you've trapped a fair amount of air as well in it, which makes it nice and cozy without being too warm. And I've had lots of feedback from people who've been knitting the linen saying, gosh, this is wonderful as an extra layer without making it too hot. So back to layers in Layercake. This is great for layering. So that was a February project as well. And then last but not least in February, the first of my Dumboard scarves. I wanted to play with texture and the linen yarn, and I came up with an idea following the gingham wingham that I knit. Here's an example of it where I play with colors rather than texture. Well, what about if I use threads, yarns of similar color but very different texture? And that's how the idea of the Dumboard scarf was born. Just a small rectangular scarf that can be either in a complementary color, like it would be here with my teal herringbone, or you can go for a contrast, of course. Actually, I'm going to rush ahead, very naughty, but I happen to have pink as well. Look at that. You know how I like to layer my scarves. So the pink that is in my synergy top and the teal that is in my duster back in my scarfies. The point of this was, like I said, to play with texture and the feel of the linen and the fiber space cumulus next to each other. And you only need tiny amounts of the threads, the yarns, to knit these, and they make lovely little accompaniments for your Layercake garments. In terms of timing, this first one was February, and now we're going into March, and another pair of socks for my husband. This was a yarn that I bought at Unravel in February last year, in February of 2020, which of course was the last show that we all did. And when I bought it, I immediately thought, oh, I'm going to make rainbow socks for him out of it. And he has worn them lots of pills as well on this, long as he likes them. I think there's some bamboo in this yarn, if I remember. Anyway, I'll put the details below, of course. So that was my first project in March, followed by two more of the Dumboard scarves. This one, purely linen, as an alternative to the fuzzy with the cumulus. I thought, well, what about just plain colors of linen, contrasting colors? And then because it's a fairly loose knit, you see the other color behind it a little bit more than you do in the sample of the Gingham Wingham. So I did this one in the blue and white, and I did one in red and white as well, which I can't find. I'll show you a picture of it. I did both of those in March. And now we're on to April. That's when I did this one. And you can actually see that I was getting bored by the dum board by then, being on scarf number 4. I did a whole section in the regular dum board, and then I started playing with my colors and did lots of different designs and stripes and a different kind of squares, little hearts, and then finally got back to my dum board at the end. It was time to move on, clearly. But the point was made about how this color and texture goes together well, and I adore how these colors go together. Kits available. After doing those pale rainbow socks, I bought some very, very nice and bright rainbow sock yarn. Again, I'll put the details below. And said to Peter, how about bright? Would you like bright instead of just the muted? He said, oh yes, please. I like that even better. So another pair of socks for him. He's always complaining that I'm not knitting him enough socks. Can you believe it? We are in April, and this is sock pair number 3 of 2020. I don't think he's got anything to complain about. I also finished a pair of socks that I had started ages before with 2 little hanks of Koigu KPPPM. That's 100% merino, but quite tightly twisted merino, high twist merino. So it doesn't need any nylon to be strong enough to knit socks out of. And I had squirreled it away for myself. I started knitting them and then, as usual, got distracted and didn't finish them. So I found my whip at some point last spring and finished my socks. So strictly speaking, not a whole project. It was just the leg of the second sock that I had to finish. But I did in April. Now on to May, and I finally did a new knitting design. Shawl, scarf, kind of in betweenish, shawlette, called streperig, which is the Dutch word for stripy. And it's knitted here in my linen in different colors, but I also have a sample that still isn't finished, knitted in Yak Blend 2, and that was knitted for me by a sample knitter who very sadly got very ill in the middle of working the sample and had to return it to me unfinished. I started working on it and then got waylaid with other projects and still haven't finished it. So bear with me, another one for the list to complete this year. But meanwhile, pattern and kits available. Then I started my first ever 2 at a time sock blank. I had bought that sock blank at the end of, or I think in the autumn or something, maybe even the summer of 2019 from Millie at Tribe Yarns, and it's Jilly Beans sock blank, 2 at a time socks for my husband. I absolutely adored the effect of seeing the sock blank transform into socks. What I'm not a great fan of is knitting socks 2 at a time. It's really portable to have the blank and then to be knitting off a blank, but it requires you knitting with a long cable and having both socks on a long cable, and it seems so incredibly slow. Working on double pointed needles is still the fastest way for me to knit socks, and I did another sock blank which I ended up ripping out towards the end and separating into 2 separate little balls, and then knitting each sock separately to complete it, which just is faster for me. Having said all of that, I adore the effect of changing a sock blank into socks and how the colors play with each other. It's really entertaining, so I can highly recommend that. And I have one more project for May, which was my first set of Synergy sleeves and front panel. You may or may not remember that I introduced the Synergy top last early summer, and it came without sleeves. These raw edges, which I adore, are not on the final Synergy tops because I did a straw poll as to whether you liked raw edges, and that was a big thumbs down. So the Synergy tops, as they are on the website now, have finished edges, no raw edges. These were the first samples. And I knitted a pair of sleeves to do the pattern and the panel that you can attach to the front. You can of course make these such that you can take them out or change them, and the pattern also includes the lace version, which is actually what I'm wearing. So this was the last project for May, and then in June I knitted lace sleeves for this pink sample, which I've been wearing lots. I adore it. So does not have one of the knitted panels at the bottom. I just did the sleeves. Of course I could do a lace panel, but I've never gotten around to it because I really enjoy wearing it at this length. So you can see I've got a sleeve underneath that, so you can't see the lace as well. Of course, if this would be a more highly contrasting color, the lace would stand out more. So that was June, and I'm wearing it here with the duster in the new Herringbone. More about that later. And because I knitted the sleeves slightly longer, you see them peeping out. I think that's so effective. And then I will try and stand to show you the bottom of it. Try and stand without knocking things over. The bottom of the step top is about the same length as the short duster, which I think works extremely well. But if I were to have another knitted panel underneath, then that would look really good too. So lots to play with, and who knows, maybe I will at some point still get around to making a lace panel for the bottom of my Synergy top. Still, this is how far I got last June, and then in July came another design. I've got the yarn right here actually. This is following the different gradients that I did. I came up with the idea of doing a color fade. I called this colorway Flower Garden for obvious reasons, and I wanted to knit a big project that would really show off the slow transition from one color to the next. So it is super, super long with these nice long tassels at the ends. It gradually gets wider. Then this is the midpoint with a tassel to show the midpoint, and then we gradually go narrower again and to the other tassel. So lovely long project, super scarf, and a nice one to combine with lots of different Layercake colors, because of course it has the colors chosen such that it specifically goes with the different Layercake colors that we have in the collection. 3 different colorways available again on the website if you're interested. The super scarf. Then I got into making linen masks. I thought, isn't that a great way to use scraps of the Layercake linen? I line them in jersey fabric so they're nice and soft against your face and double. And of course you can choose to either make them like this to go around your ears, or have longer straps that you tie behind your head if you're wearing glasses, for example, and you don't like to have this extra sitting around your ear. Sorry about that clanging, that's the male slot. It catches in the wind. So then you can tie them around the back of your head rather than around your ears. And I really like this pattern because it dips down in the front like so. So if you wear glasses, they don't fog up as a result of wearing this because it's a little bit lower down. I started by making these for myself and my family and then thought, oh, you know what? I could make that available as a little kit. So the Mask My Day face mask comes with instructions and a pattern and fabrics to make a mask for yourself. That all came later in the year. In July, all I did was make some masks for my family. And as I had the sewing machine out, I also got a request from one of my boys to mend a pair of jeans that had been handed down to him by his dad, a pair of old Levi's that have seen better days. And of course, he loves the fact that they're starting to fall apart. This is one of the knees that I patched with dark teal linen behind it and then used some fancy stitching on my sewing machine to show off the repair. He loves it. And the reason I remember to bring that in today was that he just handed it back to me again because the other knee has a small repair and now also a massive tear. So I'm going to add some more dark teal fabric to that leg. So that was July as well, bit of sewing. I know we're doing a knitting review, but I had to show you that because I keep having sewing on my mind. Again, more about that later. Then another sock blank from Jawohl in Rotterdam. You will remember me working on this, seeing me working on this and seeing the project on Instagram. This yarn, especially as a sock blank, but also knitted up, it just reminds me of Delft Blue, immediately made me homesick for Holland, and I had to have a pair of socks, so I'm keeping these. They're not going to my other half. I don't have it with me, but I also knitted some tiny little patches in linen that I attached to one of my pairs of baggies because it got ripped en route through the airport. I caught one of the lower pockets, little rip, and I thought, oh great, visible repair time. And I thought, instead of a woven patch, why not a knitted patch? So I made those as well. And I also, in linen, started working on a simple swirl scarf. I have looked everywhere, I don't know where I've put it, which is one of the reasons that I haven't finished it. I'll show it to you here because I did make photographs of it in progress and I must finish it because it's such a wonderful little accessory to use when I'm doing podcast filming, if I can remember where I put it. So another one for the list of 2021. This is where I mean, could do better. Lots of unfinished. Tell me I'm not the only one. Okay, and then back to that stitching again, the hand stitching. I had a mask that I'd cut, but I hadn't made it up yet. So I just had the cut fabric and I thought, oh, I'm going to just hand stitch some lines on that. So I did some swirly lines and then made it into a mask because I had some of this red jersey and because I'd used a red for some of the stitching, I thought that would be quite effective as well. So that stitching, the hand stitching, kept popping up at different times in the course of the year. And I kept wanting to do more of it. However, in September, no new projects. I was still working on stuff, obviously. And I had some time away. I managed to go up north with my husband. We had a week away in September. Did some fishing, went back to his old stomping ground, the Scottish borders, and walk around Walkerburn, and really had a wonderful week. But therefore, a lot less knitting. And then in October, of course, I had to jump in. I hadn't done it for a couple of years. I joined the West Knit Mystery Knit Along and knitted this baby. Huge. Despite using finer yarns, it's still a really big project. I used the Yak Blend 2 in the Moonless Midnight, a dark blue. And then all my contrasting colours are in Soliloquy yarns. I have this available as a kit. You only need 50 gram per contrasting colour, so it ends up working out quite cost effective as a result. And I think for the first time ever, I stayed on top of the timing. So every time a new clue came out, I was ready for it. And it was just for the last clue that I ended up taking longer, because I decided to do the big version, which has got the double set of chevrons at the end, because I liked how, in terms of proportion, that looked compared to the rest of the shawl. So, but by the middle of November, I was done. So in the meantime, while knitting this, I already started a new project. I wanted to knit a pair of socks for my daughter's boyfriend. So I started those in October as well as a Christmas present. Finished it well in time. I'll show you a picture because, of course, I've given them to him and he likes them. So hopefully he'll wear them. And then in November, I made a start with the Carlina jumper. There it is. I'm actually now down to the last half of the last sleeve. I've made some modifications, knitting slightly different from what the pattern calls for. Let me see if I can stop the sleeve from clanging. My stitch stoppers stop them from clanging on the table. So here's my finished sleeve. It looks long because it is long. I love being able to pull my sleeves over my hands. And one of the main modifications is that what was that? Oh yeah, that was just a big safety pin. You're supposed to finish with a 2-inch garter stitch edging, and I didn't like that idea. I've done a 3x1 rib followed with an I-cord cast off, an I-cord edge. I think it works really well. It gives the jumper some nice swing, which I love. I want it to sit loosely on my hips. It finishes just above the pocket line of my baggy pockets and playsuit pockets, so that's perfect. And then I repeated that same sleeve, that same cuff on my sleeve edge. So it's just the end of the second sleeve to go. Oh, sorry for the clanging. And then I'm going to do something similar on the neckline. You're supposed to just pick up stitches, purl one row and then cast off. That's going to look not dissimilar to what it looks like now. And I want to make it just that little bit more substantial. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet, but it's going to look similar to this with definitely an I-cord edging. We'll keep you posted. Now the one other the one other project that I can't show you that I have here that I did in last year, well, I can show a picture actually, are the Christmas socks that I did for my daughter that I gave to her just, of course, when I gave the socks to her boyfriend. So they had his and hers socks. They went down really well. And then last but not least, a little orphan project. I have no idea when I started this. It will have been at some point when I was watching TV, and whatever project I was working on wasn't suitable to combine with what I was watching. So I just cast on a pair of socks. This is in that same Rico yarn that's in this jumper, but it's a different colorway. That's got richer, darker colors like reds and plums in it, and this is more pinks. I had bought this colorway the same time as I bought that, and I'm making a sock with a cable knitted into it, a little bit like the daughter's boyfriend socks. Remember, I did cables there. I did those as an afterthought. Halfway down the leg I decided that I wanted some cables and I put them in retrospectively. This I started at the beginning. So I don't know what it is, but I guess if the fabric is very plain, then I want something to keep me interested on the legs. So I started this, but I haven't gotten any further than halfway down the leg of one sock, and then it kind of got forgotten. So it fits in with the knitting of 2020, but I can't place it on the calendar. There you have it, a whole year of knitting. So many projects that are incomplete. This one and the crochet and the second sample of the streperig, not streperig, the soepeler, and a little swirly scarf. Not bad, but could do better, right? Enough knitting for this week. Let's have a look at the linen herringbone. Let's play with some Layercake herringbone. This is what I was wearing just before. Synergy top. I was going to say step top, but of course the step tops have sleeves. I'll show you those in a minute. Sewn sleeves rather than knitted sleeves. This is the Synergy top I was wearing with haven't launched this yet, but they're on their way, duster, short duster I should say, in the teal herringbone, worn with teal herringbone baggies, and these are the short baggies. So you can see how they are on me. They're actually about 4 inches above my ankle. And I will change into longer baggies in a minute after showing you this first outfit. And then you can see how those sit on me. I'm 5'10", and I reckon you could go down to about 5'7", 5'6", 5'7" with the long baggies, and they would be almost to the ground, so they would really be full length. But even the long baggies on me are not all the way to the ground yet. They're just below my ankle. I'll show you in a minute. But these are the short ones. If you're unsure of what length of baggies to order, if you haven't ordered them for me before, then have a look at a favorite pair of trousers. Check what length you really prefer, and then measure from your waistline, which is where you would wear the baggies, and measure down to that point on your foot, ankle, leg that you would prefer as your favorite length of trousers. That length from your waist down to the bottom is listed on the website for the baggies. The regular baggies, I'll show you the length down here now, and then the long baggies are I think 4 inches lower, again longer. Again, I will show you that here. So that will help you choose the length of baggies that you will prefer wearing. As always with Layercake, if you end up purchasing something, ordering something that doesn't suit you, doesn't sit right, then you can return it, of course, for a full refund. Wouldn't be fair otherwise. So let's strip this outfit down a little bit to show you a bit more of the teal baggies. All the herringbone is a weave of the particular color, Layercake color, woven together with undyed linen, so a neutral natural color. That's why it comes up lighter than, for example, the dark teal. The teal color in this weave is woven together with black. That's why it goes darker here and lighter there. But because they have that color in common, they go so well together, just like with all the Layercakes that share a color. And I'll be able to show you more of those as we go through the different colors of herringbone baggies. But let's strip this outfit down a little bit to more of a neutral outfit with less layers. Before I do though, just to show you again how effective a step top or synergy top is in combination with a short duster. The square lines together with the round lines, they just look so nice. All right, let's strip it down. What you'll see in this video with all the different baggies that I'm going to show you, of course, I'm going to keep dressing them up with lots of other Layercakes. So even if you are not particularly interested in baggies or herringbone baggies in particular, then you may still be able to take some Layercake layer inspiration away from this. So here are the regular length baggies. This is the large regular, to give you an idea, with my size, UK size 18 bottom, in the large size regular length, and then with the smock over the top to repeat that, in this case, teal theme. But of course we can go in a different direction. I'll show you a different color of herringbone baggies, and they are long as well. Just so have a look at this silhouette with the smock and the regular length baggies, and I'll replace them with a different color of long baggies. Here's a fantastic neutral. This is black, again woven with the natural. So you get a really nice dark, and you can see, I hope you can see on the video that these fabrics shimmer a little bit. They're almost shiny. They just have the slightest bit of sheen on them. They move beautifully. They're a lot more loosely woven than our regular linens, like the cross weave. And that's why I'm introducing this as baggies. I can introduce some of them as high-lows if you'd like that, and as dusters, but I'm not going to make them into smocks and tabards. Smocks and tabards are meant to be hard-wearing over pieces, and I believe that the particular structure of the fabric really contributes to what I call that holy trinity within Layercake of the cut, the fit and the fabric. And I do not want to play with that. Again, I've said this to you in the past, but that's one of the reasons that I don't make Layercake patterns available, because in combination with different fabrics, they would behave and sit very differently. And as an example, with this herringbone, I believe that it's very, very suitable for something like the baggies. It's incredibly comfortable on your skin, but it's not suitable for a more structured over piece like the smocks and the tabards. However fluid the smock and the tabard sit on your body, it doesn't combine well with a fluid fabric like the herringbone. I hope I'm making sense. So here are the long baggies. Let's start swapping it up a little bit with different colors and with different garments other than the smock. Regular length dress in the pinstripe combined with the black herringbone baggies. From a distance, the color impression of the black herringbone and the pinstripe is very, very similar. So it's a great example of how I like playing with these different neutrals that sit quite close together in color. Let's add a layer of another neutral. Steel. A steel tabard. And again, see how close they are in color impression, although very different fabrics. Does it give you an idea? And then with the dress in between, you get the different layers of the different colors playing with each other. Let's do another one. Going darker with a black step top, which really finishes off this outfit very nicely. And then of course you can add a cowl or a scarfie or something like that. Here's one I made earlier to finish off the whole look, bringing that light color back again around your neck so that you don't end up with that slightly unfinished effect of having the color play and then ending with black. I then always think it's nice to add one more light accent here against that black. So here it is. Fabulous Layercake of no less than 4 pieces: baggies, dress, tabard and a step top. and it would have to be pretty cold outside not to be able to dash out wearing this to go and get your pint of milk. You can always add some gloves or anything, but you'll be surprised at how warm you stay for how long if you've got enough layers on your body. So, dark, how about going a little bit lighter? Because with all of these layers being in that middle neutral range, I've put a very dark layer at the top, which suits some, but not all. So let's make it a lighter finish. A natural step top. Again, goes beautifully with the others because of course there's natural in these fabrics, natural colored linen. However, if you still find the bottom half too dark, even though we've made the top much lighter, let's make the bottom lighter as well, shall we? Because we can. There it is. Were you able to follow that? Because it's only the baggies that have changed. I'll show you again. We went from this to this. Lighter baggies, same steel tabard, same dress, and a natural coloured step top. Shall I take these layers in between out so you can see the natural in combination with the baggies in the lighter colour? The lighter grey, I'll call them steel herringbone baggies with the natural step top, a much lighter neutral set. And then you can do things like put the natural check dress in between, for example. I mean, look what a fabulous combination that is. All these naturals together, these lighter colours. I didn't prep the outfit, but oh, for goodness sake, I'll just put it on. There. This happens so often when I'm filming that I come up with different ideas for different outfits. I'm looking at a lot of the layer cakes hanging on the racks behind the camera. So as I'm talking to you, new ideas pop into my head depending on what I'm seeing around me. Stay with me, plant. So the natural check together with these new neutral colored baggies. And of course we can layer this up again as well. I'll show you. Here is a charcoal tabard. And now you can see that against the charcoal, the baggies are really closer to a steel than a charcoal. They go fabulously together though, all of them, as always. Let's add a mini tab. Sorry about this folding. It's from the different sizes hanging together on one hook. We still do that even though we haven't been doing shows, because if I'd hang them all separately, we wouldn't have enough space, even at the studio. Okay, mini tab. Another 4-layer cake. I'll take the middle layers back off so that you see the steel mini tabard just with the baggies and see what a glorious combination that is as well. Of course, this mini tabard could also be worn just without the tabard, so you'd have the 3 layers. Oh, I like that. Right, I'll show you. Steel mini tab, so you see some more of the dress, but you get that grey, that neutral repeated at the top. And especially if you don't like mixing patterns together, then wearing it like this and having this, the restful colour of the mini tabard, if you then combine it with another more patterned scarf that you wouldn't like right next to the dress, then putting that mini tab in between is a nice neutral palette cleansing colour before you then add a scarf. I love making it all go crazy with a lot of different patterns and things, but not everybody does. So you can put a neutral in between if you like. Let's lose the dress. Ta-da! I want to see this myself actually. Oh, I like that. It's just ever so slightly darker. So it's kind of, the steel is in between those darkest baggies. Let me grab them. Actually, it's quite close, isn't it? The steel is slightly lighter than the darker baggies and slightly darker than the lighter baggies. But I wanted to show them all together so you can see, if you've got some steel at home, how they compare. Oh, look at that. The black, because again, these are exactly the same colors. The black herringbone with the black gingham. They both have black and the undyed linen in them. Look at that. Gosh. All right, I know what I'm going to be wearing next week. That's it for me. I love that. Okay. Oh, I've got more different colored baggies. So we're moving into a lighter palette. Let's bring in a bit of color. Not at the top, but bottom first. Here it comes. For all of you who have layer cakes in any of the greens and any of the colors that have a green warp, so that is brick, moth, moss, apple, and peacock, they all of those colors have a green in common that is in these baggies. So these baggies go phenomenally well, eyes closed, look great with any of those colors. I'll start by showing you the most muted one of them all, the moth, and then we'll slowly dial it up. So I've kept the steel mini tab and I've added a moth tabard in between. So you can see that the moth, the mauve color that's in the moth really pulls back the green, because you can see how green these look. They're made to look greener because of course they're mixed with that neutral. This is dialed down by the mauve, but as colors together they just look lush. And then keeping it neutral but in a different tone with the steel, you have a very nice muted, calm, neutral color combination that still has some nice pop of color at the bottom. And if you want to bring that back, then of course you can do something like this and add another splash of green at the top. See that? Bring it back like that. Okay, more color. Did anybody say springtime in the middle of January? Please. I don't know about you, but I really don't like getting my inbox already filled with the new spring range of garments from different fashion brands. Do you get that? I find it so... I'm still all about the mulled wine in front of a fire and huddling away and squirreling away, especially during this lockdown. Not that I don't go outside, but when I go outside, I go bundled up, not with spring in mind. So why do I mention it? Well, with these baggies, starting to wear them with the nice warm colors and the warm outfits that you are wearing now, these green ones are great for now, especially because they're so soft against the skin and so cuddly as well. But as it warms up, and once we do go closer to warmer weather, then mixing them with more bright colors and more cheerful colors just brings them effortlessly into the next season. That's what I was on about, not to try and convince you that we're almost in spring, because we're really not. Right, more color still. I was mentioning all those green based colors Of course, those are all represented in the small check. So I'll show you the small check with these green baggies. See how well they blend in and how neutral they look now against the small check, even though I so often call the small check one of our neutrals because it's got so many colours in it. Match made in heaven. Can we go even brighter? Not on top, but at the bottom. Oh, goodness me, why not? Here we go. Boom! I can't make it any brighter than this unless I go fluorescent, and that's not really the plan. Mind you, the bright pink is almost fluorescent. I haven't even tried that against this yet. Are we cheerful yet? I hope so. Now, you can see that this colour, as far as I can make out, yeah, this colour is probably what comes closest to that. That's bitter lime. Let's combine this with bitter lime because it's lush. Now, bitter lime and these baggies don't have any colours in common. They just look so nice because they're in the same kind of spectrum. They're both really cheerful and really bright, but the yellow that you get in the cross weave of the bitter lime is not achieved with yellow. It is achieved with that apple green against a tobacco brown. And both of those have a lot of yellow in them, and that they really strengthen each other. So when you look down the bitter lime and the yellow that you see then, you then see replicated in the yellow here, even though they're not at all the same colours. They just happen to be working out that way, which is one of the things I love so much working with this linen from this factory, and their ability and their willingness to do all these crazy weaves for me. Again, you can grab something like this to bring back a bit of yellow at the top. Do that repetition thing. There it is again to kind of finish the whole look, and that's like nice big bow at the top. Done. I hope you like it. We haven't never gone this bright with the baggies, so let me know what you think. Not done yet though, because I want to show a little bit of contrast as well. I'll show you what I mean. This is a long dress. I so often show you baggies with the shorter dress because I don't want that much of the baggies to disappear when I'm showing off baggies. However, I want to show you that if you are somebody who wears the shorter baggies in the shorter dress, or the longer dress with the longer baggies, how effective they can be. These bright yellow baggies, which you might not dream to wear by themselves with a shorter top, would still be extremely effective with a longer top. Look at that pop of color at the bottom, and then bringing some of that back. So if any of you have some of your hand knits or some scarves, a cowl, a poncho that has a bright color like that in it, then you can bring that back in your outfit without walking around and believing that you're looking like a baby chicken or a little duck. It's just a pop now. It's an accent at the bottom, but it's still that extra nice warm layer as part of the entire outfit. So if you think, oh, I quite like that yellow, but I don't want it to dominate my outfit, you wear something long like this over the top. And like I said, if you're somebody who wears the regular length dress and the regular length baggies, then this is the amount of baggy that you'll see under your dress, because they would both end up being shorter, and then that's what's being left. The other thing that I wanted to point out with this outfit is the particular choice of colors, going for that dark, moody, almost aubergine purple against the yellow, which of course is on the other side of the color wheel, the spectrum. and how effective those are together. So I hope I've given you lots of inspiration, and let me know what you think about them. Oh, a little bit about the fabric before ending. This is a looser weave. The quality of the linen is just as high as it is with the straight weaves, but the herringbone is woven differently and has more movement in it. That means that it's more drapey, like I said in the beginning. It also means that it will fold and crease differently from what you're used to. That's not a quality issue, it's a choice of going for a different weave, and that's why we make it in very specific fabrics. It's still pre-shrunk, it can still be washed and dried as per usual, but it's also a more expensive fabric because of the way it's being made. And that explains the price difference that we're facing with the herringbone linen. It's a combination of the fabric being more expensive, but the make itself is more expensive as well. We have to treat the seams differently and reinforce seams in a lot of places to make sure that the garment ends up being the kind of quality level that you're used to from us. So that explains the price difference. In general, though, compared to the high street brands that have similar prices to ours, Layercakes are all made on a very small scale at a local studio. High street brands are made abroad, either in the eastern part of Europe or even in the Far East, in order to bring them to you at the prices that they are. Our margins compared to theirs are tiny, which is one of the reasons that I was so proud that at the end of my calculations, I could uphold another year of the loyalty code, the discount code for returning customers. So I hope you understand where we're coming from with that, and that I'm doing everything I can to keep the prices as low as possible for as long as possible. Sorry about the long explanation at the end, but I want you to know where we're coming from and how we arrive at where we are. And I'll see you again soon.